The Wisdom of Edhi and Mother Teresa, Mindsets of the World's Greatest Humanitarians. This full-length audiobook reveals the powerful philosophies, daily disciplines, and inner mindsets of Abdus, Sattar, Edhi, and Mother Teresa, two individuals who changed the world not through wealth, status, or power, but through radical compassion, relentless service, and a lifelong devotion to humanity. Chapter 1. Choose service over self, always. There is a moment in every life when you must decide what you stand for. And for Abdus, Sattar, Edhi, and Mother Teresa, that moment came early and decisively. They chose service. They chose humanity. They chose a life that demanded everything from them and gave them nothing in return except purpose. Because it's not about comfort, it's about contribution. It's not about status, it's about sacrifice. And the more we study their lives, the more we realize one unshakable truth: you choose service. Then service chooses you. Most people wait. They wait for inspiration. They wait for resources. They wait for miracles. But Edhi did not wait. Mother Teresa did not wait. Not because they were superhuman, but because they understood something profound. What we need is not the perfect moment, but the willingness to act despite imperfection. Edhi once said, "No religion is higher than humanity." And he didn't just say it, he lived it. He walked the streets of Karachi collecting donations with a tin can. He slept in the same office where he built Pakistan's largest fleet of ambulances. He washed the bodies of strangers when no one else would. And he did all of this while owning only 2 sets of clothes. You might think this level of simplicity weakens a person, but in reality, it strengthens the mission. The more you remove from your life, the more you can give to the world. Edhi understood that. And so did Mother Teresa. When she left Albania and entered the slums of Calcutta, she entered a world where poverty wasn't just a condition, it was an entire ecosystem of suffering. She once said, "If you can't feed 100 people, then feed just one." That statement alone is a blueprint for service. Not because it excuses smallness, but because it empowers action. And this is where the real comparison between Edhi and Mother Teresa becomes powerful. Just as Edhi built ambulances to reach the forgotten, Mother Teresa built homes to shelter the abandoned. Just as Edhi sat beside the dying on sidewalks, Mother Teresa carried the dying off those same streets so they wouldn't leave the world alone. They operated thousands of miles apart, from different faith traditions, in different political climates, yet the mindset was identical. Service is not postponed, service is performed. It's easy to say you want to help the world, but harder to surrender your life to that mission. Most people want impact without inconvenience. But what we learn from Edhi and Mother Teresa is that inconvenience is the birthplace of impact. They did the work not because it was glamorous, not because it was rewarding, but because it was needed. And whether you like it or not, what the world needs rarely aligns with what feels comfortable. Let's look deeper. Edhi started with nothing. No government support. No big donors. No influence. Just a vision and relentless discipline. And this is the part people often overlook. It wasn't his idea that changed the world. It was his daily actions. He didn't build a single ambulance and stop. He built 1, then 2, then 10, then hundreds. He repeated the same mission every day. Serve, serve, serve. And the more he did it, the more people joined him. This isn't coincidence. This is cause and effect. Mother Teresa followed the same pattern. She started with 1 schoolroom. 1 mission. 1 person at a time. Over decades, her missionaries of charity grew to thousands of sisters in over 100 countries. And it all began with a decision to step outside herself. She once said, "I have found the paradox that if you love until it hurts, there can be no more hurt, only more love." Far from being poetic, this was her operating principle. Love was not emotional, it was functional. It demanded exhaustion. It demanded sacrifice. It demanded that she place the needs of others above her own desires. And this is where the lesson applies to you. Because whether you lead a company, a family, a community, or only yourself, the principle is the same. Service is a choice, not a reward. The real question is not what do I get, but what can I give? What we need is not more ambition, but more alignment. Not more noise, but more compassion. And when you begin to choose service deliberately, your life takes on a different tone. Your purpose sharpens. Your distractions fall away. Your actions acquire weight. Don't just take my word for it. Look at how both Edhi and Mother Teresa lived. Their achievements weren't rooted in intelligence alone, or courage alone, or faith alone. They were rooted in discipline. They woke up every day with the same intention: alleviate suffering. And they executed that intention without waiting for applause, without demanding perfect conditions, without questioning whether they were enough. The more important issue is not whether you feel ready, but whether you are willing. People often assume their level of impact must match the scale of Edhi's ambulances or the global reach of Mother Teresa's missions. But the truth is simpler. Start where you are. Do what you can. Serve who is in front of you. The point is not magnitude. The point is mindset. Both of them began with nothing. Both built everything through daily consistency. And both prove that greatness emerges from ordinary beginnings. Just as Edhi's one ambulance became a national lifeline, so too did Mother Teresa's first schoolroom become a global force of compassion. This isn't the end. It's the beginning of what service can create when fueled by discipline. Because when you choose service once, it becomes an event. When you choose service daily, it becomes your identity. And here is the part many overlook. Service strengthens you. It builds resilience. It clarifies purpose. It sharpens your priorities. Far from being a burden, it becomes a source of energy. When Edhi spoke to volunteers, he said, "My religion is humanitarianism, which is the basis of every religion in the world." When Mother Teresa trained her sisters, she said, "Not all of us can do great things, but we can do small things with great love." Different words. Same message. Service is universal. So ask yourself, are you choosing service? Or are you choosing self-preservation? Are you waiting for perfect conditions, or acting with what you have? Are you measuring your contribution, or simply offering it? Because the truth is clear. You choose service. Then service chooses you. This chapter has one mission: to show you that purpose begins where self-interest ends. Edhi and Mother Teresa became who they were because they stepped beyond themselves. And now, as we move forward, the next chapter will take you into the second mindset that shaped their greatness. Chapter 2. Lead with radical humility, not recognition. Humility is not weakness. Humility is not passivity. Humility is not silence. Humility, real humility, is a strategic decision. It is a form of leadership that magnifies impact rather than shrinking it. And both Abdus, Sattar, Edhi and Mother Teresa mastered this form of leadership with a discipline that few in history have ever matched. If Chapter 1 taught you that service demands sacrifice, then Chapter 2 teaches you the mindset that protects your mission. Lead with radical humility, not recognition. Because humility doesn't diminish your effectiveness. Humility multiplies impact. It's not about being invisible. It's about being principled. It's not about thinking less of yourself. It's about thinking beyond yourself. And when you study Edhi and Mother Teresa, you see this pattern again and again. The less they focused on themselves, the stronger their work became. The more they refused recognition, the more recognition came to them. Not because they pursued it, but because they made themselves worthy of it. Let's start with Edhi. He rejected every ornament, every title, every privilege that came his way. When wealthy supporters tried to gift him a luxurious vehicle, he said no. When politicians tried to associate themselves with his work, he avoided them. He wore the same simple kirta day after day. He kept his life centered around one principle: no religion is higher than humanity. And he lived that principle through humility so radical that it disarmed his critics and empowered his mission. Most people want to appear humble, but they still want praise. Edhi removed even that desire. What we need is not performative humility, but actual humility. The kind that limits ego, not effectiveness. The kind that strengthens discipline, not identity. Edhi understood that attention can corrupt purpose. When the world rewards you for the wrong behaviors, your mission becomes distorted. And he refused to let that happen. Now look at Mother Teresa. The world saw her as a saint, but she never called herself one. She wore the same white and blue sari every day of her life, even when she met presidents, kings, and global leaders. She said, "Be faithful in small things because it is in them that your strength lies." That sentence reveals her entire worldview. Strength doesn't come from attention. It comes from devotion. It's easy to say humility matters, but harder to embody it in every choice, every action, every day. You might think that humility is soft or passive, but in reality, humility is a source of power. It keeps you grounded. It keeps you focused. It keeps you honest. It prevents ego from poisoning your mission. Just as Edhi kept himself small so his work could become large, so too did Mother Teresa keep herself simple so her message could remain clear. Don't just take my word for it. Look at their lives. Edhi built the largest volunteer ambulance network in the world, over 1,800 ambulances, while living in a tiny room. Mother Teresa built missions in over 130 countries while owning almost nothing. No one can deny that their achievements were extraordinary, but what's often overlooked is how they stayed effective for decades. They never allowed recognition to become a distraction. That's the deeper lesson of this chapter. Humility multiplies impact. And if we don't understand this, then we risk confusing visibility with value. We live in a culture where people want followers more than influence, praise more than purpose, applause more than alignment. But Edhi and Mother Teresa show us the opposite truth. The more you strip away ego, the more you can build something real. It's not that recognition is evil. It's that recognition can seduce you away from your mission. The real question is not, how can I be seen? But how can I be useful? Not, how do I protect my image? But how do I protect my integrity? If we don't ask better questions, we get trapped in shallow answers. Humility is not self-erasure. It is self-management. It is the discipline of removing yourself from the center so the mission can take its rightful place. And the reason humility works is simple. The mission becomes bigger than the ego. Edhi did not build a global humanitarian empire by making it about himself. Mother Teresa did not transform the world by focusing on her image. Their work carried their names, not their ego. You might think that letting go of recognition limits your opportunities, but in reality, it expands them. Because humility creates trust. Humility creates stability. Humility creates credibility. And credibility is the currency of leadership. People followed Edhi because they knew he wanted nothing for himself. People trusted Mother Teresa because she demanded everything from herself. And whether you like it or not, credibility is earned through sacrifice, not through slogans. The more important issue is not how you appear, but how you operate. If your leadership is rooted in ego, then it will collapse under pressure. But if your leadership is rooted in humility, then nothing can shake it. Humility is the anchor. Humility is the shield. Humility is the compass. Let's break this into real-world application. How do you lead with radical humility in your own life? First, remove the need to be right. Humility asks, what serves the mission, not what serves my pride? Second, choose responsibility over credit. Humility says, I will do the work even if no one sees it. Third, simplify your life. The simpler your lifestyle, the sharper your focus. Fourth, speak less about what you will do and do more of what you must do. This is about more than modesty. It's about operational discipline. Far from being a limitation, humility becomes your strength. Because once you stop chasing recognition, you free up energy to chase results. Edhi never asked to be honored, yet he became one of the most respected humanitarians in the world. Mother Teresa never asked to be celebrated, yet she became a global symbol of compassion. Their humility did not hide them, it elevated them. Not because they sought elevation, but because they earned influence through service. And now we return to the anchor phrase of this chapter, the phrase you must burn into your mind. Humility multiplies impact. Say it again. Humility multiplies impact. When your ego shrinks, your effectiveness grows. When you lead from service instead of self-promotion, your leadership becomes undeniable. This isn't the end of the lesson. This is the beginning of real leadership. Because once you master humility, you no longer chase validation, you chase purpose. And that shift changes everything. So as we close this chapter, remember this: Edhi refused titles. Mother Teresa refused comfort. Both refused recognition. And because of that refusal, they led movements that still reshape the world today. Their humility did not weaken their leadership, it strengthened it. Now, with this foundation laid, we move to the next essential mindset that guided their humanitarian power. If humility was their posture, then their vision was their lens. In the next chapter, you will learn how they practiced the discipline of deep perception. Chapter 3. See the person, not the problem. Approx 1,000 words. When Abdus Sattar Edhi said, "No religion is higher than humanity," he wasn't offering a slogan. He was offering a lens, a way of seeing. When Mother Teresa said, "If you judge people, you have no time to love them," she wasn't offering poetry. She was offering a discipline, a way of approaching every single human being. This chapter is about that lens. It's about that discipline. It's about learning to see what they saw, the human being hidden beneath the dirt, beneath the addiction, beneath the illness, beneath the shame. Because it's not about the problem you see on the surface. It's about the person trapped underneath. It's not about the discomfort you feel. It's about the dignity they deserve. And it's not about the excuses society makes. It's about the responsibility you choose to carry. Edhi saw what others refused to see. Mother Teresa loved who others refused to love. And if we want even a fraction of their impact, we must train our eyes, train our mind, and train our heart to look again, look deeper, see the human. Edhi washed bodies, literally washed them, because he believed every person deserved dignity in death. Think about that. Not because it was pleasant, not because it was easy, but because he refused to see a corpse. He saw a life. You might think washing the dead is simply a cultural duty, but in reality, it was a declaration. This person mattered. And if we don't learn to see people as they truly are, then we risk living our entire life blind to the humanity right in front of us. Mother Teresa did the same in a different form. She picked up dying men and women from the streets of Calcutta and whispered to them, "You are loved. You are wanted." Just as Edhi's hands restored dignity, so too Mother Teresa's presence restored worth. What we need is not grand gestures, but a different gaze. A gaze that refuses to reduce a person to their circumstances. Look again. Look deeper. See the human. Repeat it, because repetition reshapes perception. Repeat it, because perception determines action. Repeat it, because this is where humanity begins. The real question is not, why is this person suffering? The real question is, can I see their humanity before I see their condition? Edhi once found an infant abandoned in a garbage dump. Anyone else would have seen a problem, a burden, a tragedy. But Edhi saw a child of God. He saw a future. He saw possibility. And he made it a habit, not an accident, not a lucky moment. A habit to see people not as they were found, but as they could become. Mother Teresa saw lepers when the world saw untouchables. She touched wounds when the world recoiled in fear. She held hands that society refused to acknowledge. Whether you like it or not, your instincts are shaped by your perceptions. If you see threat, you pull away. If you see inconvenience, you look down. But if you see the human, if you intentionally train your perception, then compassion becomes instinctive. It's easy to say, "I care about others," but harder to act when compassion costs you time, energy, or comfort. And don't just take my word for it. Look at the thousands of addicts Edhi personally rescued, cleaned, and rehabilitated. Look at the thousands of dying patients Mother Teresa sat beside, often with nothing more than a bowl of rice and a whispered prayer. Far from being simple caretakers, they were retrainers of vision, living examples of what it means to see beyond the surface. Let's break this mindset into something practical, something you can start doing today. 1. Pause before reacting. Most people react to the visible problem: anger, addiction, homelessness, illness. But what we need is not reaction, it's recognition. The person yelling at you might be drowning in grief. The coworker who seems cold might be terrified of failure. It's not that people are difficult, it's that people are burdened. Look again. Look deeper. 2. Separate the human from the behavior. Edhi didn't judge the addict for the addiction, he saw the pain behind it. Not only did he feed and shelter them, but he also listened, which, in his view, was the real act of service. And Mother Teresa didn't see the dying as cases. She saw them as souls. If we don't consciously make that separation, then we risk condemning people for the struggles they didn't choose. 3. Ask the better question. Not what's wrong with this person, but what happened to this person. This shift changes everything. This shift turns judgment into curiosity. This shift turns distance into connection. The more important issue is not the behavior in front of you, it's the story behind it. What Edhi and Mother Teresa mastered was perception, not perfection. They weren't superhuman. They weren't immune to fear, exhaustion, or disgust. But they understood something most people overlook. How you see determines how you act. And how you act determines the kind of person you become. You might think compassion is an emotion, But in reality, compassion is a discipline. Not because you feel like helping, but because you choose to see the person who needs it. Compassion is not soft. Compassion is not weak. Compassion is clarity. Compassion is strength. Compassion is the refusal to overlook someone's humanity, even when the world has already done so. Edhi often said, "Bring them to me." The unwanted, the homeless, the abandoned. That simple phrase reveals everything about his mindset. He didn't say, "Someone should help them." He didn't say, "Why is the government not doing more?" He said, "Bring them to me," because he had trained himself to see a person's value before their circumstance. Mother Teresa's equivalent was, "Do small things with great love." The dying man on the street, one cup of water. The lonely woman, one touch. The abandoned baby, one smile. It wasn't the scale, it was the sight. It wasn't the quantity, it was the quality of presence. And if we want to elevate our own character, purpose, and daily actions, then this chapter demands one thing: adjust your perception. Look again. Look deeper. See the human. Say it until it becomes natural. Say it until it interrupts your judgments. Say it until it transforms your reactions. Now, here's the challenge. Here's the turning point. Here's the shift this entire chapter demands. Tomorrow, you will see someone who frustrates you, inconveniences you, or pressures you. It might be a stranger. It might be a coworker. It might be someone you love. In that moment, your instinct will be to judge, to assume, to react. Stop yourself. Pause. Breathe. Look again. Because if you don't control your perception, then you risk becoming blind. Blind to needs. Blind to opportunities to serve. Blind to the humanity that surrounds you every day. This isn't soft advice. This is vision training. This isn't about being nice. This is about becoming human. Edhi saw the human. Mother Teresa saw the human. Now it's your turn. And as we move forward into the next chapter, we go deeper, not just into seeing the person, but into serving without judgment. Because it's not enough to see someone's humanity. The next step is to act on it. Chapter 4. Turn compassion into daily action. Approx 1,000 words. Compassion is not a feeling. Compassion is not an emotion. Compassion is not a moment of inspiration you wait for. Compassion is a verb. And no one lived that truth more consistently than Abdus, Sattar, Edhi, and Mother Teresa. Edhi declared, "No religion is higher than humanity," and he proved it not through speeches, but through relentless action. Mother Teresa said, "Do small things with great love," and she built an entire global movement on that single instruction. This chapter is about that mindset, the mindset that transforms compassion from a sentiment into a lifestyle. Because it's not about feeling bad for others. It's about showing up for others. It's not about the emotion of pity. It's about the discipline of service. And it's not about waiting for the right moment. It's about creating the right moment through consistent, daily action. Compassion is a verb. Repeat it until the idea sinks into your bones. You might think compassion is something that appears when your heart is moved. But in reality, compassion grows when your habits are aligned. Edhi did not build the world's largest volunteer ambulance service by feeling sorry for people. He built it by waking up every morning prepared to act. Not only did he run ambulances, but he also ran shelters, orphanages, clinics, morgues, and rehabilitation centers, all born from the conviction that compassion is meaningless unless it becomes motion. The more important issue is this: compassion becomes powerful only when it becomes consistent. Mother Teresa didn't wait for the right opportunity to help. She didn't calculate whether she was in the mood. She didn't wait for clarity or comfort. Whether you like it or not, she acted because compassion was her identity, not her mood. She said, "If you can't feed 100 people, then feed just one." And far from being a slogan, it was a blueprint for life. She understood what most people overlook. Small acts performed daily create extraordinary impact over time. Compassion is a verb. Not a wish, not a dream, not a plan, a verb. Let's analyze why turning compassion into action matters so deeply. First, because feelings fade. Discipline lasts. It's easy to say, "I care," but harder to lift someone who has fallen. The real question is not, "Are you compassionate?" The real question is, does your compassion move your hands and feet? Second, because action builds capacity. You don't become a compassionate person by thinking about compassion. You become compassionate by doing compassionate things. Edhi didn't start as a giant of service. He started as a poor man sweeping the streets of Karachi. Action built skill. Skill built confidence. Confidence built capacity. Capacity built legacy. Third, because action interrupts apathy. If we don't practice compassion daily, then we risk becoming numb to suffering, numb to injustice, numb to need. But when you act, even in small ways, you keep your soul awake. This is about more than helping others. It's about maintaining your own humanity. And Edhi understood this deeply. He said, "Charity begins at home, but should not end there." That wasn't a lecture, it was a challenge. What we need is not charity that stops at convenience, but rather compassion that continues into the hard places. Mother Teresa echoed the same discipline when she taught her sisters. Never worry about numbers. Help one person at a time. She trained them to focus on the person in front of them, not the scale of the world's suffering. Just as she worked in the alleys of Calcutta, so too you can work in the alleys of your own daily life, your home, your workplace, your neighborhood. Compassion is a verb. Let the words stay with you. Now, the practical part, the part you can implement immediately. 1. Build a daily compassion ritual. Not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. Choose one consistent act of service you do every single day. It might be checking in on someone. It might be offering a ride. It might be donating something small. But remember, what we need is not sporadic compassion, but rather structured compassion. 2. Automate your giving. Edhi used to say, "Give even if it is a small amount." He believed small giving trains the heart. So automate a portion of your income, your time, or your attention. Not because the amount is huge, but because the habit is transformative. 3. Act immediately when you see a need. Mother Teresa taught her sisters never to delay responding to suffering. She said, "Yesterday is gone. Tomorrow has not yet come. We have only today." The more you delay compassion, the weaker it becomes. Immediate action builds the muscle. 4. Serve anonymously at least once a week. Free yourself from the craving for recognition. Edhi would hide his identity whenever possible. He said, "I do not want praise. I want work." When you help quietly, you train your motives. Just as muscles strengthen through repeated movement, so too compassion strengthens through repeated service. Compassion is a verb. Let it sink in again. Now let's confront the truth most people avoid. It's not that people lack compassion. It's that people wait for perfect conditions. It's not that you don't want to help. It's that you think you need more time, more money, or more clarity. It's not that you are unkind. It's that you are untrained. Don't just take my word for it. Look at Edhi's life. He began with nothing but a small shelter. Over decades, that small action evolved into a massive humanitarian empire. Not because of ambition, but because of consistency. And look at Mother Teresa. She began with a single classroom in Kolkata. One woman, one room, one promise to serve. That small step became the missionaries of charity. Over 5,000 sisters serving in 139 countries. Far from being accidental, her impact grew because she acted on compassion daily. Compassion is a verb, not because it sounds good, but because it works. If there is one idea you must extract from this chapter, let it be this. Compassion only matters when it becomes movement. Every act counts. Every gesture matters. Every step builds the habit. And every habit shapes the person you become. Compassion is not the end of the journey. It is the beginning of leadership. Compassion is not weakness. It is responsibility. Compassion is not a soft skill. It is a hard discipline. You might think your actions are too small to matter, but in reality, small actions are the only ones that ever do. Mother Teresa said, "We cannot do great things. We can only do small things with great love." Edhi's entire life was proof of that principle. If we don't turn compassion into daily action, then we risk becoming spectators of suffering instead of participants in healing. But if we do, if we commit to one action a day, every day, then we begin to live as they lived. Compassion is a verb. Say it again. Compassion is a verb. As we move forward in this audiobook, the next chapter takes us deeper into the challenge of consistency. Because it's not enough to act once. The real transformation comes from commitment. Chapter 5. Do the work no one else wants to do. Approx 1,000 words. There is a level of greatness you cannot reach by staying in comfort. There is a level of impact you cannot touch by choosing the easy tasks. And there is a level of character you will never build until you do the work no one else wants to do. This is exactly where Abdus, Sattar, Edhi, and Mother Teresa separated themselves from the world. They chose the tasks everyone avoided. They stepped into the places everyone feared. They touched the people everyone ignored. And through those decisions, they carved legacies that continue long after their deaths. Edhi once said, plainly and without hesitation, "I will pick the dead bodies. I will wash them. I will bury them." Not because it was pleasant, but because it was needed. Mother Teresa walked into leper colonies and dying wards that most people refused to even look at. She made it clear, the dying, the unwanted, the unloved, these are mine. And she meant it. This chapter is about one message, one mantra, one command. Go where others refuse to go. Say it again. Go where others refuse to go. It's easy to say you want to make a difference, but harder to step into the uncomfortable reality where difference is actually made. You might think greatness comes from talent, charisma, or opportunity, but in reality, it comes from willingness. Willingness to do the job no one else will touch. Willingness to face situations that make others turn away. Willingness to serve in places where applause will never reach you. The real question is not, do you want to help people? The real question is, are you willing to help in the places where help is needed most? What we need is not selective compassion, but rather courageous compassion. Not only the desire to serve, but also the courage to serve where it is hardest. Not because it is glamorous, but because it is right. Edhi understood this better than anyone. When Karachi was struck with violence, disease, and disaster, he went into the streets with nothing but an ambulance and resolve. He picked up bodies that had been left to rot. He washed them with his own hands. He gave dignity to those the world had abandoned. Far from being a grim task, it actually became his calling card, his symbol of leadership. He once said, "Bring me the injured, bring me the dead, bring me anyone who has no one." That was his threshold. That was his identity. And Mother Teresa? She treated lepers with her bare hands at a time when people believed the disease was a curse. She walked into slums filled with stench, decay, and human suffering. She said, "We think sometimes that poverty is only being hungry or naked or homeless. The poverty of being unwanted is the greatest poverty." She went to the people who were unwanted by society. She went to the places avoided even by the charitable. She went where others refused to go. And that is why their names endure. Now, let's break down why this principle is so transformative. First, the hardest work builds the strongest identity. It's not about convenience, it's about conviction. When you choose the difficult tasks, you build a backbone the world cannot shake. You develop a level of resilience that comfort can never teach. What we need is not easy service, but rather committed service. Second, the avoided places hold the greatest potential for impact. Don't just take my word for it. Look at the world's greatest movements. Real impact never begins in the spotlight. It begins in the shadows. It begins in the nursing home, the shelter, the slum, the street, the morgue. It begins in places people ignore, because that is where transformation is needed most. Third, doing the work no one wants trains your ego to stay silent. No one can deny that service is noble, but what's often overlooked is that true service crushes ego. When you handle the tasks that come with no praise, your motives become pure. You detach from image. You detach from validation. You detach from applause. Just as Edhi drove an ambulance instead of sitting in an office, so too Mother Teresa cleaned wounds instead of giving speeches. And that's the difference. Now, let's talk about the practical side, how you apply this today. 1. Identify the avoided task. Every workplace, every home, every community has tasks that everyone skips. The more important issue is not who caused the mess, but who is willing to fix it. Ask yourself, what is the one thing no one wants to do? Then do it. Not because you must, but because this is how leaders are forged. 2. Go to the ignored person. Edhi cared for addicts, abandoned infants, the mentally ill, those society dismissed. Mother Teresa sat beside the dying, even when they could offer nothing in return. Ask yourself, who is the one person everyone avoids? Then serve them. That is how compassion expands. 3. Step into the uncomfortable environment. Growth hides in discomfort. If we don't step into the hard places, then we risk living a life of shallow impact. The hospital ward, the tough conversation, the needy neighborhood, go there. Not because it's safe, but because it's necessary. 4. Choose unseen work over public work. This is where your character sharpens. This is where ego dissolves. This is where humility becomes strength. Mother Teresa said, "Not all of us can do great things, but we can do small things with great love." The spotlight is optional. The service is not. And remember, go where others refuse to go. You might think you need more resources to help, but in reality, you need more courage. You might think you need training, but in reality, you need willingness. You might think someone else will handle it, but in reality, you are the someone. Whether you like it or not, greatness requires discomfort. This isn't the end, it's the beginning of real service. The work no one wants to do is the work that shapes the person everyone respects. Far from being an unpleasant part of service, discomfort is the path to service. It is the shaping fire. It is the hidden doorway to purpose. As we close this chapter, hold on to the message tightly. Go where others refuse to go. Say it again. Say it until it becomes instinct. Go where others refuse to go. Because that is where Edhi found his greatness. Because that is where Mother Teresa found her mission. Because that is where you will find your growth. And now, as we move forward, we expand this lesson into a larger truth. How doing the difficult work shapes not just service, but identity. Chapter 6. Detach from comfort, attach to humanity. Refrain: less comfort, more courage. Comfort is one of the most seductive traps in human life. It lures you quietly. It relaxes your standards. It softens your instincts. And before you even notice it, comfort convinces you that ease is normal, that convenience is a right, and that anything difficult is a burden. But the greatest humanitarians, Abdus, Sattar, Edhi, and Mother Teresa, disproved this illusion every single day. They lived with almost nothing, not because they lacked choices, but because they understood a deeper truth: less comfort, more courage. It's not about deprivation. It's about discipline. It's not about punishing yourself. It's about preparing yourself. It's not about rejecting the world. It's about serving it better. You might think you need more comfort to function, but in reality, comfort often takes more from you than it gives. Comfort erodes urgency. Comfort dilutes mission. Comfort creates a false sense of safety that eventually becomes a cage. Whether you like it or not, comfort is one of the biggest barriers to greatness, because comfort convinces you that you've already done enough. But Edhi and Mother Teresa rejected that lie from the start. Edhi: 2 sets of clothes, 1 unshakable mission. Let's start with Abdus, Sattar, Edhi. No one can deny that he could have lived a more comfortable life. He built the largest volunteer ambulance service in the world. He ran shelter homes, orphanages, blood banks, and rehabilitation centers. Nations honored him. People adored him. Donations flowed to him. And yet, he owned only 2 sets of clothes. Simple, coarse, unbranded clothes. The kind the poorest people in Karachi wore. Far from being an accident, this was a strategic choice. Edhi said it plainly: "I want to live like the poorest of the poor." Not because he needed to prove a point, but because he needed to stay aligned with his purpose. If he lived above the people he served, he risked forgetting why he started. If he indulged in comfort, he risked losing connection with the suffering he was trying to relieve. The more important issue is this: Edhi understood that comfort creates distance, and distance weakens empathy. Just as muscles weaken without resistance, compassion weakens without proximity to hardship. So too does purpose weaken when surrounded by softness. Edhi refused the softness, not out of martyrdom, but out of clarity. He was building a system that demanded endurance, not ease. And endurance thrives on simplicity. Less comfort, more courage. Mother Teresa: a simple cot, a global mission. Now consider Mother Teresa. Most people know her for her Nobel Peace Prize, for the missionaries of charity, for her work in Calcutta. But what's often overlooked is how she lived. She slept on a simple, hard cot. Not for a week. Not for a month. For most of her life, her room contained almost nothing, just the essentials for survival and the tools for service. Why? Because what we need is not luxurious living, but rather intentional living. The real question is not, what do I deserve, but what do I need to serve? She believed deeply in the principle, if you have less, you are free to give more. Not only did she avoid comfort, but she also removed anything that could distract her from her mission. She reduced friction. She minimized choices. She simplified her life so completely that her energy, attention, and willpower could be invested entirely into service. It's easy to say you care about humanity. It's harder to rearrange your life to reflect that care. Mother Teresa understood that the environment shapes the mind, and the mind shapes the mission. Less comfort, more courage. Comfort isn't the enemy, attachment to it is. Let's be clear, comfort itself is not evil. The couch isn't your enemy. The warm shower isn't your downfall. The problem is attachment. It's not that comfort is bad. It's that attachment to comfort makes you fragile. It's not that discomfort is good. It's that discomfort makes you capable. If we don't confront this truth, then we risk becoming people who only act when conditions are perfect. And perfection never comes. If you need the ideal temperature, the ideal mood, the ideal motivation, the ideal environment, you will never rise to greatness. You'll wait your whole life. Comfort makes you wait. Mission makes you move. What Edhi and Mother Teresa demonstrated is a psychological principle verified across history. The less you depend on comfort, the more you depend on purpose. This isn't the end. It's the beginning of your strength. Why reducing comfort boosts resilience? You might wonder, why does simplifying life matter so much? Why does removing comfort increase capacity? Because comfort lowers your tolerance for challenge. Discomfort raises it. Just as athletes train with resistance to grow stronger, so too do humanitarians strengthen themselves through simplicity. Far from being a hardship, their minimalism was a form of training, daily training in mental clarity, emotional resilience, and mission-driven focus. Edhi could race to disaster zones without hesitation because he wasn't weighed down by comfort. He didn't need to mentally prepare. His life was preparation. Teresa could walk into slums, leper houses, and deathbeds because her identity wasn't tied to comfort, it was tied to compassion. Less comfort, more courage. The hidden power of a simple life. There's something profoundly liberating about living with less. You get back time. You get back energy. You get back attention. When you detach from comforts, you detach from distractions. And when you detach from distractions, you attach to humanity. It's not about having nothing. It's about eliminating what weakens you. Not because suffering is noble, but because simplicity is powerful. Not because hardship is glamorous, but because clarity is priceless. When life is simple, purpose gets louder. When purpose gets louder, hesitation gets quieter. Less comfort, more courage. How you apply this today, practically, immediately. This chapter isn't about asking you to sleep on a floor or sell your belongings. It's about developing the inner toughness that comfort has slowly taken from you. Start small. Start intentional. Start real. Here are the behaviors that bring this chapter to life. 1. Choose one comfort to reduce daily. Cold showers. Simplified wardrobe. A smaller workspace. A reduced digital diet. Not because minimalism is trendy, but because discipline builds courage. 2. Serve someone in a way that slightly inconveniences you. Carry something heavy. Stay 5 minutes longer. Give when you feel a slight resistance. Not only does this build compassion, but it also rewires your attachment to ease. 3. Practice daily grounding through humility. A simple meal. A mindful moment. A task you usually avoid. If we don't practice humility, then we risk losing empathy in the comfort of routine. These are small steps, but remember, small steps shape character. Small sacrifices build resilience. Small discomforts produce great courage. Less comfort, more courage. Edhi and Teresa show us the same truth. Whether you study Edhi sitting on the footpaths of Karachi or Mother Teresa walking through the alleys of Calcutta, one theme is undeniable. Their power came from their simplicity. Not because they lacked options, but because they made a choice. A deliberate choice. A courageous choice. To detach from comfort. To attach to humanity. To trade ease for purpose. To trade luxury for service. This is about more than lifestyle. It's about identity. Chapter 7. Give until it transforms you. Refrain. Give until it changes you. Giving is easy to talk about. Giving is easy to admire in others. Giving feels noble when it costs nothing. But giving in the way that changes the world, giving in the way that changes your character, giving in the way that transforms your life, it is never easy. It is never convenient. It is never comfortable. This is the principle that defined the lives of Abdus, Sattar, Edhi, and Mother Teresa. And the lesson is simple. Give until it changes you. Repeat it. Say it until it reaches your bones. Because until you are transformed by your giving remains incomplete. Edhi lived this principle every day. He started his work with almost nothing, collecting donations on the streets of Karachi, literally with a tin in his hand, asking people to give whatever they could. He gave tirelessly, but the real giving wasn't only of money, it was of himself. Every hour, every action, every decision was an act of sacrifice. And yet, he never stopped. Not because the world demanded it, but because his heart required it. Mother Teresa did the same. She gave until her health broke. She worked for hours in the slums of Calcutta, cleaning wounds, feeding the hungry, and comforting the dying. She gave of her body when it ached, of her time when it was exhausted, and of her life when every fiber of her being screamed for rest. And still, she continued. Not because she sought recognition, but because transformation is only real when giving costs something. The real measure of giving. It's easy to say, I want to give. It's harder to give until it stretches you. The real question is not, how much did you give, but how much did giving change you? Edhi once said, charity is not just giving money, it is giving yourself, giving time, giving effort. Far from being a statement of generosity, it was a rule for transformation. Not only did he give, but he allowed the act of giving to reshape him, his habits, his mindset, his very identity. Mother Teresa echoed the same truth. It is not how much we give, but how much love we put into giving. She transformed herself through giving. Her work wasn't only about saving lives, it was about cultivating courage, patience, and resilience in herself. This is about more than helping others. It's about making yourself capable of helping others at the highest level. If we don't give until it changes us, then our generosity remains superficial. We become patrons, observers, or spectators. But we do not become warriors of impact. Why sacrifice is the true catalyst. You might think giving is measured by quantity, money, hours, or possessions. But in reality, giving is measured by sacrifice. Sacrifice is the stretch that forces transformation. When Edhi placed himself in constant service, living minimally, sleeping on the floor, giving all he had to others, he was creating a feedback loop. The more he gave, the more he learned humility. The more he gave, the more he strengthened resilience. The more he gave, the more he expanded capacity. Just as Edhi gave relentlessly despite scarce resources, so too Mother Teresa gave relentlessly despite physical pain and exhaustion. She said, God does not require that we succeed, only that we try. Every act of giving that stretched her beyond comfort was a building block for character. The more important issue is this: transformation requires tension. You cannot stretch your muscles without resistance, and you cannot stretch your spirit without sacrifice. Far from being a hardship, sacrifice is the engine of transformation. The behavioral principle, give until it changes you. Now, how does this apply to your life? 1. Give beyond convenience. Don't give when it's easy. Give when it stretches your schedule, your energy, your patience. Not because anyone will notice, but because this is how your character grows. 2. Give of yourself, not just resources. It's easy to give money. Harder to give time. Harder still to give effort, energy, and personal attention. Edhi spent decades walking among the sick, the abandoned, the dying. Mother Teresa spent decades cleaning wounds, feeding the forgotten, comforting the unloved. Their giving transformed them into instruments of impact. 3. Accept the cost of giving. You might feel fatigue, frustration, or discomfort. That's exactly the point. If we don't experience cost, then we risk keeping our generosity shallow. True giving, giving that transforms, always comes with a price. 4. Reflect on your giving daily. Edhi once wrote in his journal, I do not give to be praised, but I must measure if I am giving enough to be transformed. Reflection creates awareness. It ensures that giving is not routine or performative, but transformative. 5. Make giving habitual, not occasional. Mother Teresa instructed her sisters. Small acts, repeated daily, build the kingdom. Consistency turns giving into a force that changes not just the world, but the giver themselves. Real-world implications. It's easy to admire Edhi and Mother Teresa from afar. It's harder to imitate them up close. But the principle is replicable. Give until it changes you. You can start small. Help a neighbor, volunteer for a local cause, or dedicate an hour a day to someone who needs your attention. Then stretch. Challenge yourself. Give when it's inconvenient. Give when it costs time, energy, or comfort. Give until it reshapes your thinking, priorities, and sense of self. Not because it's easy, but because transformation doesn't happen in comfort zones. It happens on the edge of fatigue, inconvenience, and sacrifice. It's easy to say, I want to help. It's harder to say, I will continue until it changes me. The latter is the true mark of a life well lived. Psychological principle. When giving transforms you, it rewires your mindset. It strengthens empathy. It expands patience. It develops courage. It aligns your identity with service. Edhi gave until he could no longer be distracted by personal desires. Mother Teresa gave until her health deteriorated, yet she continued. Both demonstrate that the highest level of giving is never transactional. It is transformational. This is not a slogan. This is a discipline. This is not luck. This is training. This is not random generosity. This is the path to impact. Closing reinforcement. Give until it changes you. Say it again. Give until it changes you. Not until you feel good. Not until you are recognized. Not until it is convenient. But until the act of giving reshapes your priorities, your habits, your courage, and your resilience. This isn't about exhaustion. It's about expansion. This isn't about suffering. It's about growth. This isn't about sacrifice. It's about transformation. No one can deny the results of Edhi's life. His generosity redefined humanitarian service. No one can deny the results of Mother Teresa's life. Her dedication reshaped global perceptions of the poor. But what's often overlooked is that their giving transformed them first. That is the principle you can apply immediately. Give until it changes. Chapter 8. Stay unshaken in a world of criticism. Refrain. Let criticism sharpen your mission, not weaken your spirit. No one achieves greatness without inviting scrutiny. No one changes the world without provoking opinions. And no one serves humanity at the scale of Abdus, Sattar, Edhi, and Mother Teresa without facing criticism that would stop ordinary people in their tracks. Yet both of them mastered a critical skill that separates temporary do-gooders from enduring humanitarians. They remained unshaken in a world of criticism. You might think that criticism is a warning, a stop sign, a signal to retreat. But in reality, criticism is an inevitable byproduct of impact. The more visible your work, the more you disturb the status quo. The more you challenge norms, the more voices will rise against you. And this is precisely where the world's greatest humanitarians excelled. Edhi, criticism as a catalyst. Abdus, Sattar, Edhi faced endless accusations. Political opponents tried to delegitimize his work. Some journalists doubted his intentions. Certain factions accused him of religious bias or of using donations improperly. And yet, Edhi never wavered. He said simply, I am not here to please people. I am here to serve humanity. Notice the mindset, service over approval. Not because he was indifferent to ethics, but because he understood the more important issue. Criticism is a test of resolve, not a reflection of worth. Edhi's strength came from two practices: clarity of purpose and repetition of action. Clarity of purpose. Every morning, Edhi reminded himself why he was serving the poor, the sick, the abandoned. Criticism could not touch the mission. It could only shake his mood if he let it. Repetition of action. He refused to pause or slow down. The more he gave, the louder the skeptics became, and the more resolute he remained. Every ambulance dispatched, every shelter opened, every life saved was an answer louder than any accusation. Criticism is inevitable. Reaction is optional. Edhi chose impact over applause, resilience over resentment. Mother Teresa, enduring attacks and misunderstanding. Mother Teresa faced criticism on multiple fronts. Some accused her of exploiting the poor for fame. Some questioned her methods, her faith, even her healthcare practices. At times, Entire governments doubted her intentions. And yet, she did not argue, defend, or retaliate. Her response was simple. If you judge me, you have not walked in my shoes. I do not stop because others do not understand. It's easy to say that criticism shouldn't bother you. It's harder to continue giving, working, and loving when every act is scrutinized. The more important issue is not defending yourself. It's keeping your mission alive. Just as Edhi's work moved forward despite scrutiny, so too Mother Teresa's service advanced despite misunderstanding. Their greatness came not from avoiding criticism, but from refusing to let it derail them. Let criticism sharpen your mission, not weaken your spirit. Repeat it. Say it until it reaches the very marrow of your bones. Because every voice that doubts you is also a voice that will test the depth of your commitment. Criticism as a mirror, not a weapon. Criticism often feels personal. You might think, they are attacking me. In reality, the truth is simpler. Criticism reflects the challenge you pose to the world. If no one criticizes you, you might not be doing anything significant. If criticism unsettles you, it reveals dependency on approval. If criticism stops you, it shows that your identity is built on perception rather than purpose. Edhi knew this intuitively. Accusations of favoritism never made him retreat. They made him sharpen his systems of transparency. Doubts about his hospitals never made him quit. They made him improve procedures and standards. Mother Teresa knew this as well. When people accused her of inefficiency, she did not stop. When people questioned her intentions, she did not argue. She acted. She gave. She persisted. Criticism is a mirror. Look at it. Learn. Let it sharpen your focus. But do not let it weaken your spirit. How to stay unshaken. Practical lessons. This chapter is not just philosophy. It's a roadmap for resilience. 1. Anchor yourself in mission. Define why you serve. Write it down. Repeat it every morning. Edhi's anchor was simple. Service is the only reason I am alive. Mother Teresa's anchor was equally simple. Love the unwanted, the unloved, the forgotten. If your purpose is clear, criticism cannot dislodge you. 2. Separate feedback from emotion. Criticism may contain truth, or it may be entirely wrong. Don't confuse your self-worth with someone else's opinion. If we don't separate feedback from emotion, then we risk losing focus. 3. Respond with action, not argument. Both Edhi and Teresa chose action over defense. Edhi built hospitals while critics spoke. Mother Teresa cared for lepers while detractors doubted. The louder you act, the quieter the naysayers become. 4. Cultivate an inner circle, not a crowd. Seek guidance from those who understand your mission, not from the masses. Criticism from the uninformed is unavoidable. Criticism from the aligned is instructive. Whether you like it or not, most voices are noise. Learn to filter. 5. Reframe criticism as a strength. Every attack is an opportunity to test resolve. Every misunderstanding is a chance to clarify focus. Every accusation is a chance to deepen discipline. Don't just endure criticism. Let it train you. Let it refine your mission. The psychological edge. Criticism is a stressor. Stress triggers doubt, fear, and distraction. Edhi and Mother Teresa converted stress into fuel. They treated criticism as a mental workout. They repeated the mantra, let criticism sharpen your mission, not weaken your spirit. Not because they were immune, but because they disciplined their minds to see opportunity in adversity. This is about more than ego control. It's about maintaining clarity under fire. It's about ensuring that no attack, accusation, or misunderstanding derails the work that matters most. Real-world implications. In life, criticism is inevitable. Your ideas will be doubted, your methods will be questioned, your intentions will be misunderstood. It is easy to stop. It is easy to retreat. It is easy to let criticism crush ambition. But it is harder, and far more important, to respond with unwavering focus, deliberate action, and relentless courage. Edhi did not wait for recognition. He served anyway. Mother Teresa did not pause for approval. She served anyway. And that is the essence of resilience. Serve anyway. Act anyway. Give anyway. Lead anyway. Love anyway. Closing reinforcement. Say it with me one more time. Let criticism sharpen your mission, not weaken your spirit. It's not about being liked. It's about being effective. It's not about defending yourself. It's about advancing the mission. It's not about stopping the noise. It's about amplifying your purpose. Criticism is inevitable. Your response is optional. Choose courage. Choose clarity. Choose action. Whether you like it or not, this is how legacies are built. Whether you like it or not, this is how humanity is served. Whether you like it or not, this is how greatness is defined. Chapter 9. Build systems of love, not symbols of success. Anchor phrase. Build what the world needs, not what your ego wants. It's easy to admire grand gestures, big speeches, monumental events, flashy achievements. But the real test of a humanitarian, of a servant leader, of a life devoted to impact, is not in moments. It is in systems. This is the lesson Abdus, Sattar, Edhi, and Mother Teresa teach us more clearly than anyone else. Build systems that last. Build structures of love. Build institutions that survive you. Do not build symbols to impress others or to feed your ego. You might think that making a big statement is enough. You might think that headlines, applause, or awards define impact. In reality, impact is measured by continuity, by resilience, and by the tangible lives that benefit long after the individual is gone. Edhi's legacy is proof. He didn't merely feed people once. He created the Edhi Foundation, a network of over 3,000 ambulances, shelters, dispensaries, and orphanages that continue to serve millions in Pakistan every single day. Mother Teresa didn't just comfort the sick for a few months. She established the missionaries of charity, building global homes for the dying, abandoned, and poorest of the poor. These were not monuments. They were living systems of service. The mindset of systems versus symbols. Most people operate with short-term thinking. They focus on recognition, awards, or social validation. That is not the mindset of Edhi or Mother Teresa. They understood that symbols fade, systems endure. A plaque on a wall is meaningless if the work it commemorates stops tomorrow. Ego-driven projects collapse. Purpose-driven projects thrive. Build to serve, not to be admired. Sustainable impact requires replication. One act of kindness is powerful. A replicable system of kindness is revolutionary. Edhi didn't spend energy seeking fame. He spent energy organizing ambulances, coordinating volunteers, and setting up orphanages that would run autonomously. His goal was not recognition, but maximum reach. Mother Teresa didn't operate for headlines. She focused on consistent care, creating homes for the dying and abandoned that multiplied globally because they were built to function independently, based on principles of love, discipline, and service. This is about more than efficiency. It's about creating a legacy that others can step into, sustain, and grow. Systems as a force multiplier. It's easy to say, help someone. It's harder to say, create a structure where thousands can be helped consistently. This is where Edhi and Teresa separated themselves from ordinary volunteers. They understood that systems multiply love. One person can touch a few lives. A system touches thousands. Edhi's ambulance network didn't rely on him personally being at every emergency. It relied on rules, procedures, training, and discipline. He built accountability into the system. He delegated authority to trusted managers. He monitored outcomes. He ensured that service was uninterrupted. Mother Teresa's homes for the dying operated on similar principles. She trained sisters, established protocols for care, and ensured that the homes could continue even if she wasn't physically present. The system was stronger than the individual. The system became the vessel of love. The more important issue is this: impact grows exponentially when systems replace dependency on heroics. Heroic actions are celebrated, but systemic actions are immortal. Behavioral lessons: how to build systems of love. You might think, I am not Edhi or Mother Teresa. I cannot create global networks. In reality, the principle scales down to your life immediately. 1. Identify the core need. Not your comfort. Not your reputation. Not what looks good. Ask, what does the world actually need, and how can I address it? 2. Build processes, not performances. Edhi didn't just deliver food once. He created shelters with checklists, shifts, and rules for consistent care. Mother Teresa didn't just visit the sick. She trained her sisters to continue care independently, with discipline and love baked into every action. 3. Prioritize durability over visibility. Systems may not be glamorous. They may not generate applause. But over time, their effects are unstoppable. Think long-term. Build for longevity. Build to last. 4. Delegate with purpose. Systems work when responsibility is distributed. Edhi empowered staff to run ambulances, manage shelters, and provide care without waiting for him. Mother Teresa trained thousands of sisters to replicate her methods globally. Your goal is to build a self-sustaining mechanism, not a one-person show. 5. Test, refine, and repeat. Systems are living entities. Edhi improved procedures constantly. Teresa adjusted methods to meet practical challenges in hospitals, homes, and slums. Don't aim for perfection on day one. Build, measure, adapt, and expand. Systems are strengthened by iteration, not luck. The psychological principle. Systems create freedom. Systems create consistency. Systems create impact that is bigger than your individual capacity. When you build a system of love, you remove dependency on chance, energy, or mood. You ensure that service does not stop when fatigue strikes, when doubt creeps in, or when the world is distracted. This is why Edhi's ambulances still operate decades later. This is why Mother Teresa's missionaries of charity still thrive globally. They weren't monuments of self. They were infrastructures of love. It's not that building systems is easy. It is that failing to build them guarantees limitation. One person can only do so much. Systems extend your reach. Systems amplify your impact. Systems immortalize your purpose. Real-world applications. Even if you are not running a global foundation, the principle applies. In business, create repeatable processes that deliver value consistently rather than relying on your personal presence.In community work. Train volunteers, create schedules, and design workflows that persist beyond your involvement.In personal life. Develop routines that cultivate love, discipline, and attention daily. Small systems, habit trackers, accountability partners, or scheduled acts of service compound into massive transformation. You are not building for applause. You are building for endurance. You are not building for recognition. You are building for results. Build what the world needs, not what your ego wants. Closing reinforcement. Say it again. Build what the world needs, not what your ego wants. It's easy to focus on appearances. It's easy to chase recognition. It's easy to perform for praise. But that is not legacy. That is not impact. That is not love. Systems endure. Systems replicate. Systems grow. Systems save lives. Systems multiply care. Systems outlast you. Edhi gave his life to create systems. Mother Teresa gave her life to create systems. And both understood. Systems are the ultimate expression of love in action. Whether you like it or not, to change the world you must think beyond heroics. Whether you like it or not, you must create structures that persist. Whether you like it or not, you must build systems of love, not symbols of success. Chapter 10. Let your life become the message. Refrain. Your actions preach louder than your voice ever will. Abdus, Sattar, Edhi, and Mother Teresa did not become icons because of speeches, awards, or global media coverage. They became icons because their lives were consistent, deliberate, and relentless messages of service, love, and humanity. You might think that legacy is created through grand gestures. You might think that influence comes from recognition or fame. In reality, legacy is created one disciplined action at a time, every single day. Edhi didn't preach that one should serve the poor. He built a network of shelters, ambulances, and hospitals. Mother Teresa didn't lecture the world on compassion. She held the dying in her arms, wiped their sores, and stayed by their side through pain that would have broken most hearts. Their lives were their message. Every day, their choices, their sacrifices, their actions communicated louder than any words could. The core principle: actions over words. It's easy to talk about doing good. It's harder to actually do it, repeatedly, when no one is watching. The real question is not what you say, but what your life communicates without uttering a single word. Edhi's foundation serves millions today. Mother Teresa's missionaries of charity operate in over 130 countries, continuing her daily acts of care. These are not coincidences. These are the result of lives lived as living messages, day after day. Every shelter Edhi opened, every leper Mother Teresa tended, every life they touched reinforced a principle far more powerful than slogans or speeches: Love is action, and duty is visible. Consistency over inspiration. Consistency matters more than inspiration. Inspiration is fleeting. You feel inspired for a moment, then forget. Discipline produces long-term impact. Edhi would wake early, visit hospitals, oversee shelters, and check ambulances before most people had their morning tea. Mother Teresa would rise, pray, and start her rounds to feed and care for the poorest of the poor. This was daily, relentless, habitual action. You might think that moments of heroism define a life. In reality, the sum of small, persistent actions defines a life. One child rescued from abandonment. One patient comforted in pain. One leper held with dignity. Multiply these by years, decades, a lifetime, and you get Edhi. You get Teresa. You get a message that cannot be ignored, cannot be silenced, cannot be replicated by words alone. Behavioral lessons, making your life a message. This is about more than charity, it's about design. You can intentionally turn your life into a message that communicates values louder than speech ever could. 1. Align daily actions with values. Every decision should reflect the principles you care about. If compassion matters, practice it. If service matters, serve consistently. Edhi said, "No religion is higher than humanity." His life proved it. Mother Teresa said, "Do small things with great love." Her life lived it. 2. Prioritize action over announcement. It's easy to post, tweet, or talk about what you intend to do. It's harder to show up, day after day, to serve. The more important issue is not being heard, it is being felt. Your life is the sermon. Your actions are the testimony. 3. Build habits that communicate. Rituals, routines, and habits create consistency. Edhi's habit of visiting hospitals daily communicated that no one is too poor, too sick, or too abandoned to matter. Mother Teresa's habit of walking the streets of Calcutta at night communicated that love is proximity, commitment, and courage. 4. Let your presence speak. You do not need applause to impact lives. Presence is persuasive. Action is persuasive. Love is persuasive. Your daily life can inspire, shape, and lead without a single word. Facing challenges while maintaining your message. It is easy to get distracted by criticism, fatigue, or the scale of the problem. It is harder to remain a consistent, visible testament to your values. Edhi faced political pressure, religious criticism, and personal exhaustion. Mother Teresa faced skepticism, global scrutiny, and constant strain on her health. Yet their message never wavered. Their discipline ensured that every action reinforced their principle: service over self, love over convenience, humanity over approval. This isn't the end. It's the beginning of understanding your capacity. Far from being overwhelmed by the scale of need, they built structures and habits that amplified their impact. They did not wait for ideal conditions. They did not seek applause. They acted relentlessly. Your life can be the same message. Not because the world notices immediately, but because consistency communicates more than spectacle ever could. Practical steps to live a life that becomes the message. Identify your core values. What do you stand for? What is non-negotiable in your life? Write it down. Revisit it daily. Design your daily actions around them. Your mornings, work, relationships, and decisions should reflect these values. Edhi's values were reflected in ambulances, shelters, and hands-on service. Mother Teresa's values were reflected in the act of touching lives ignored by society. Accept sacrifice as communication. It is not easy. True messages are often inconvenient. Edhi slept on the floor to be closer to the sick. Mother Teresa endured illness and exhaustion to comfort the abandoned. Your sacrifice is a form of preaching. Ignore praise, embrace discipline. You will be misunderstood, ignored, or even criticized. What matters is alignment with your message, not alignment with public opinion. Repetition reinforces the message. Daily action compounds. Consistency converts ordinary acts into extraordinary influence. Your actions preach louder than your voice ever will. Repeat it, live it, internalize it. The psychological principle. Humans learn through modeling, not slogans. Edhi modeled service. Mother Teresa modeled compassion. Every observer, every recipient, every volunteer absorbed the lesson through observation. This is about more than imitation. It's about internalization. When you live your values every day, others unconsciously learn that discipline, compassion, and courage are possible. If we don't live our message, we risk creating only words without weight. If we do, we transform ourselves, our communities, and eventually, the world. Closing reinforcement. Let's say it again. Your actions preach louder than your voice ever will. It's not about speeches. It's not about recognition. It's not about applause. It's about consistency. It's about discipline. It's about love expressed daily. Your life, structured through daily action, becomes a beacon. Your habits, your sacrifices, your choices become a living testament to what matters. Edhi showed us that service at scale is possible. Mother Teresa showed us that love at scale is possible. Both prove that your life, lived fully and intentionally, is the ultimate message. Whether you like it or not, the world is watching. Whether you like it or not, your habits are teaching. Whether you like it or not, your choices communicate. Choose to let your life be the message. Choose discipline over distraction. Choose action over words. Choose love over convenience. And remember, your actions preach louder than your voice ever will. Now, as you close this audiobook, the challenge is clear. Be a living message every single day. Serve relentlessly. Love deliberately. Build systems. Endure criticism. Let your life preach without speaking. This is your moment to choose who you will become. Edhi chose service until it defined him. Mother Teresa chose love until it transformed entire nations. Their message is simple. You don't need wealth to change the world. You need willingness. You don't need recognition. You need courage. You don't need perfect conditions. You need a heart that says, I will not walk away. If you take anything from this audiobook, let it be this. Service is the highest form of strength. Compassion is the deepest form of wisdom. And your daily actions, not your intentions, will write the story of your life. Start today. Start small. Start with one act of courage, one act of kindness, one act of service. Let your life become the message. And if you are ready, truly ready, then step forward and live in a way that would make both Edhi and Mother Teresa proud.